Welcome to the Travel Agency New Year podcast. My name is Rachel Kay, your host. Today is day 67, threats when you're a travel advisor, and some mitigation tips. I'm going to preface this episode. I am a travel advisor. I am not an attorney. And none of this is just education and things to consider. And it's not scary. Just understand this is part of the job. Okay. If you're 67 days into being a travel advisor, you should be fully aware of this. But maybe you aren't. So we're going to go over there's 9 different items. So the most obvious are the chargebacks, which every host, I think, goes over. You definitely want to have very strong T&Cs, terms and conditions, spelled out super clearly, especially like a service agreement. Whether or not you charge a fee, you should have one. I highly recommend it. If you need help with that, there are attorneys who specialize specifically in travel law, so they can help you. Top of mind is Tom Carpenter. I heard one the other day in a live Q&A for my advisors group. I think the name is Jeffrey Mint, ? Not sure. Another one option that you could consider is Travel Industry Solutions. They work with a team of attorneys, and they're a lower cost option. However, it is subscription based. So you want to weigh the costs, okay, between all three. I don't even know if the second attorney's name is correct. So between the two, they can help you make sure your butt is covered to help prevent chargebacks from clients. Another thing to consider is making sure your clients, any payment authorization and any invoices that they sign, check your CRM to make sure that you can have proof that they sign these things, okay? Number one, that's going to be the biggest help if you should ever face a chargeback. I have only faced one chargeback, I believe. I think. And the person had CFAR. It didn't make any sense. But the client had CFAR. They had to cancel their trip. I canceled their room. I sent them all the travel insurance information and said, you need to file a claim for this. And they still did a partial chargeback. It was so weird. And it wasn't even like the 75% that CFAR covers. It was just like the last big chunk of the trip that they had paid for. So when I was contacted by the supplier, like, hey, there's a chargeback. You need to explain this. I was like, okay, well, here's their insurance policy. Here's where they authorize the invoice. Here's where they've authorized every single payment and submitted the payment on their own. And here's where they submitted the cancellation form, the reason they canceled. And here's proof that the booking was canceled through you. And then they're like, oh, slam dunk. So you definitely want to have that stuff kind of set in place, because if there is a chargeback, it's not going to be, I don't think your host is going to cover it. I don't think the supplier is going to cover it. It's your financial responsibility, and chargebacks can run into thousands of dollars. Number 2, potential clients committing fraud or clients committing fraud. Now, many host agencies do have trainings for fraud prevention. Nope, fix that. Fraud prevention. There we go. They do offer that. If you are an independent advisor, you're just on your own, definitely look into some kind of fraud prevention trainings that you can do. Because again, if it's discovered it's fraudulent charges, there's going to be chargebacks. You could lose your commissions. You could maybe have to pay back things. So I only have had one person with client fraud attempt to commit fraud, and it was very obvious. And when I asked them, I need a copy of your ID with your front and back of the card, because many suppliers require that if it's a short trip, that's the number one sign. If it's less than 30 days, they're like, I want to take this $1 million trip and I'm going to have 15 people. No, wait, I'm going to have 4 people. No, it's just me. And they can't make a decision. That's probably not their money. Need to be very careful. If they've limited time to book this trip and they're in such a rush, It's kind of a scary red flag that they probably have someone's information, credit card information that they're going to try and use as quickly as possible before they get caught, right? All right, number 3, holding funds in your own agency account can be very tricky. There's been a few advisors who have gotten arrested for essentially robbing Peter to pay Paul, where they collect funds from their own agents on their team for like group fam trips or something, or clients that have booked trips, and instead of sending that money on to the supplier and DMCs, they just take it and then they get arrested. Don't do that. Don't do that. I don't like to keep any money in my business account. It goes straight to the supplier. I'm not involved. Okay, hackers phishing. There are some who pose as suppliers now. This is kind of a trend, and you'll think it's an email from your supplier, like with an update, and they're just phishing. So be very, very careful with that. If you don't book with that supplier regularly and you're not even registered with them and they're emailing you, that's a big red flag. I don't like to check any supplier emails unless it's like the actual BDM talking to me. Any unforeseen events is a threat. Never say anywhere is safe, because you can't guarantee 100% safety somewhere. There's always going to be natural disasters. There could be another pandemic. I don't want to talk about it. There could be random political unrest that you cannot forecast. You do not have a crystal ball and can't say this is what's going to happen or not going to happen. But all of these things can also impact sudden revenue loss. And if you say it's going to be fine and safe and convince them you don't need travel insurance, it's fine, I go there all the time, and then something happens, you could be very much liable for funds lost or anything the client wants to go after you for. Market dynamics. So Airbnb and Vrbo's blew up again in the 2010s as a result of probably the 2008 recession. People couldn't really afford to travel as much. That stopped.